Welcome to Trek Table, your Sunday weekly podcast holding Trek space for
Black, Indigenous, Brown,
women of color,
queer or otherwise,
and our allies.
Hi, and welcome to the Trek Table. I'm your host, Allison Ordela, and today I'm holding Trek space for all the women holding it down while trying to keep their stamina up.
Hi, I am your co-host, Claudia, and today I'm holding Trek space for sisters in the struggle and the success we get through emotional support.
Hi, I'm your co-host, Maya, and I'm holding Trek space for families and Indigenous memory.
Hi, I'm your co-host, Marie Wren, and today I'm holding Trek space for women who are going through transitions, whatever they may be, and also trying to shed anything that is holding them down.
Amazing. Welcome to the Trek Table, everybody. Thank you for joining us at the Women at Warp IDIC Podcast Festival. We always like to start our show by also acknowledging that our team and our digital equipment for the Trek Table are on the unceded lands of the Tongva, the Chumash, the Quiche, and the Ohlone people. We are grateful to the Indigenous stewards of these lands, the ancestors who have come before, those who are here now, and those who have yet to come. We invite you to learn about the Indigenous peoples who have been the stewards of the land that you are on in the future as well. Let's all go ahead and breathe in some gratitude for our stewards of land. Breathe in and exhale. Welcome, welcome here at the Trek Table. Thank you to the ancestors for this land. We're holding a lot of different things today for Trek Space. We're super excited to be here live and in color on YouTube and on Facebook Live at the Women at Warp Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations Podcast Festival. We hope you're enjoying if you're watching us live or you're watching the archive video or the podcast. So welcome. We always start our show by talking about who or what folks are holding Trek space for. So if you're new to us and you're watching us, share in the chat, who or what are you holding Trek space for? We'd love to know. All right. So we're going to just take a breath, assuming that people are going to share that with us and giving the attention for whatever listeners and viewers are doing. Yeah, table. Let's go ahead and take one more big breath in through our nose and out through our mouth. Thank you.
Our opening track for this episode is titled Chicana Skies by the band Quetzal off of their album Quetzal. You'll be hearing several tracks from Quetzal throughout this episode of the Trek Table. Follow them at Quetzal Music on Instagram or see our show notes or the chat for a link to their merchandise and more.
Yes, and so today on the Trek Table will be Trek Table episode 20. We're exploring Star Trek Discovery, season 2, episode 3, Point of Light. And as we've titled it for this Women at Warp Festival, Return of Mother and the Stamina Required by Women Leaders in this episode. We're going to explore this episode in a couple different ways, give you a sample of what we do. We're going to do a little bit of popcorn recap, our way to kind of recap what happens in that plot. We're going to go to Trek Table questions. We got 2 for those today. Marie Wren has questions. We're super excited to hear about what those are and what we will discover. Claudia's going to drive us through the drama that is design as we look at all the stuffy stuff. Maya's going to take us through the looks in Space Runway. I will help us braid it all together with Thematix. We're going to get some spoiler zone action. We've got some signal boosts today. And of course, always our final thoughts and gratitude.
We honor that people may be on their own journey of viewing Star Trek Discovery, so during the bulk of the show, we will only discuss things that we can remember that have been unveiled up through Season 2, Episode 3 of Star Trek Discovery. For other insights, including lots of different knowledge, please join us in the spoiler zone.
Yes. We started this podcast, honestly, because I'm a big fan of Star Trek Discovery and Michael Burnham, and I wanted a place to talk about it. So when we gather, we want to meet folks a little bit deeper before we jump into the Star Trek talk. So let's talk to our table assembled. Table, can I have you go around, share your name, your pronoun, your access check-ins, and how do you identify as a Star Trek fan? Marie Wren, can I ask you to go first?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. I am Marie Wren. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am a Filipino-American woman, middle-aged, with a round face. I have dark black hair. It's about to bottom of my ears. I'm standing in front of some artwork and I'm wearing my wonderful disco shirt. All of my access needs are met. And I describe myself as a Star Trek light fan, but I also am a science fiction medium well done fan.
Wonderful. Welcome. Maya, can I invite you to go next?
Hi, my name is Maya. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm a Guatemalan mestiza femme. And I came to this podcast because I like women and queers who kick ass and are smart. And I consider myself sort of Star Trek light, Star Trek femme, and heavily sci-fi curious.
Welcome. Claudia, can I invite you to introduce yourself?
Hey, hello, everybody. Claudia Alec, gender pronouns, they, their, she, hers. You can use those interchangeably. Visual description, African-American woman wearing purple sort of safety gloves. Sometimes my cane will be in the shot. I've got a big brown afro and I'm wearing a Star Trek shirt and I am sitting on the deck of the Star Trek Enterprise, the original one. My access check-in is that I've got some allergies going on. So you might see a tissue enter into the frame. It's not because I'm crying because of the beautiful drama of our show. It's because of my allergies. And also I have a muscle disorder. So that means sometimes I'm pulling a face but I'm not pulling a face because of a Star Trek opinion. I'm pulling a face because one of my muscles is pulling me. Other than that, all my access needs are met because I've got my Earl Grey tea hot. And I'm ready for the show. And I would say that I identify as a generational Star Trek and poly sci-fi. I like all the science fiction.
Yes, welcome. And I'll go last. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Dayla. My pronouns are she, he, they, or Dayla. I am a mixed Filipinx queer person with bluish black hair, sitting in my disco shirt in front of a green Filipino malong with a Discovery Season 3 poster in my back upper right corner. Super ready to get into this. My access check-in is that it's just a little hot where I am, so I might ruffle around in my seat. I also want to say that I enter as a Star Trek fan back from Next Generation. I would say I'm a Trekkie, a Trekker, and a Trekhead. I love the minutia. I know some canon. And I would say I am sci-fi poly, but because of this show, I feel very sci-fi monogamous around Star Trek Discovery. So that I was trying to find language about that last week. I found it. Sci-fi monogs right now. So what's up? What's up, everybody? So yes. So I'm trying. I'm trying to build this language. How do we give ourselves language as fans, right? All right. So our final business before we actually jump into these Star Trek conversations is we want to just name our Trek table agreements, right? So we want to welcome all who enter, whether you're a newbie or you were raised in a Star Trekking family or generational, or whether you're Star Trek curious. Welcome. Let's build this space together.
Whether you use Trek Table as your nerdy exploration or even as part of your self-care ritual, Trek Table is a weekly space to put down the world for a second and come into Trek space.
This is a space for Black, Brown, Indigenous women of color to be a fan, a geek, a nerd, and explore the vastness of the Star Trek multiverse.
Yeah, and Trek Table is also a place where allies can come and engage and explore as well. This is an opportunity for allies to hold space and focus on the insights, perspectives, and experiences that you or we may not be familiar with.
And now that we are all here, we remind you that we seek to build an environment of mutual respect and listening. We understand we'll disagree, and that is part of the fun, but there's enough hate going on out there in the world, so please keep your phasers on stun.
Yes. So let's go ahead and breathe in all those agreements together. Go ahead, take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Wonderful.
Oh, and now that brings us to our first Trek Table question that is assembled here for voice and video and those participating in the chat. First question, y'all. Tilly is afraid she is losing her entire mind. Why is she so scared? What's Starfleet's deal with mental health? Mira que regresa Welcome back. Welcome back. That was a sampling of Hollenbeck Gonzo by the band Quetzal, our theme song today for our Trek Table questions. And the question was, Tilly is afraid she's losing her mind. What is Starfleet's approach to mental health? Can we start with you, De La, as a person who is familiar with many of the Star Treks? What do you feel? What do you think?
I grew up watching Deanna Troi run a counselor's room, and then honestly watching Guinan run a bar. So
for real, Guinan was the real counselor.
And let me also say, watching the holodeck be a place where people worked a lot of stuff out. So I will say there's that deal. I feel like in this iteration, what I'm fascinated by is, I don't know that we've met a ship's counselor, but I do feel like this crew is super emotionally intelligent, and they do kind of like to talk to each other, not just about the sciencey things, but also about their feelings. So I don't know what Starfleet's approach is. I hope that their approach is I think they want people to be happy and healthy. So that's kind of what I'm reflecting on in this question. But
yeah. I'm not sure about that, Dela, because Tilly's having feelings. Marie, what do you think?
Yeah, Tilly's having feelings, and one of them is fear on showing what exactly is going on. And so that actually makes me wonder if it is related to trauma with what happened in season 1. And so that those are questions that are brought up with me. My common theme for the last few months has been normalize the mental health day.
Nice. Well, and I'm thinking of you mentioned Star Trek. We've got Troy and Barclay. We've got a history with that. We've got a Deep Space Nine, where you had Nog, who had PTSD, and definitely needed to use the holodeck and worked with Vic to work that stuff out. Mm-hmm. Maya, what do you think about Star Trek and mental health?
I'm really worried about Tilly's pressure to be perfect. That idea that, she has these super important goals to her, and, and this mentor friend, Burnham, who is brought up, under kind of like Vulcan teachings, and also kind of has this perfectionist thing. And it's a whole ship of, of smarty pants, excellence, right? But I'm afraid that poor Tilly is going to explode. And I'm super weirded out by how May, the apparition that comes to her, is really about kind of cheerleading her on. And it's almost like a single white female sort of thing, except for she's Guyanese and Canadian. But and the May's the actress. But yeah, so much pressure to be perfect. And obviously once they start to work together, that dissipates, and they find that it's something really important, a plot point.
Well, I think that with this, I don't want to blame Tilly for her having the feelings that she's having, because I feel like we're like, Tilly, it's all in your head. There's so much pressure. But I think that the pressure Tilly's experiencing is real. And I also wonder if it's one of those situations where Starfleet says good things about you can ask for help, but is it real? If Tilly had actually asked for help when she needed it, showed vulnerability, would they be there for her? Well, I guess they were. All right. And that brings us to the end of our Star Trek question number 1.
Awesome. If you're interested in this Trek Table question and want to engage with us in the dialogue, we invite you listening and watching us to like and subscribe to us on Instagram at Trek Table, or on Twitter at Trek Table 1. And feel free to join our convos with the hashtag Trek Table, hashtag BIWOC Trek, and hashtag Star Trek Discovery.
And with this song, Matanzas by Quetzal, it's now time for Popcorn Recap. The game is simple. We have 2.5 minutes to share chunklets of the plot from this week's episode.
Yes, we will be talking about season 2, episode 3, Point of Light, directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi.
We think that this game is fun because Maya and I are both Trek newbies. Claudia comes from a generational Trek family. And Dela loves minutia. So can we get it done? We don't always get it done in the 2.5 minutes.
All right, Dela, please take out the official Star Trek timer. It's at 2.5 minutes on the timer. Can we get it done? Let's find out.
Go.
It's you. You go first. You go first, Dela.
Oh my gosh, I'm going first. Hi, Tilly's hallucinating at the top of this show episode. She's like running in the command training program half marathon, and the lights get dark and light. And then May, she like runs through her and she freaks out.
And then there's a ship approaching Discovery. Who is it? It's a diplomat ship. It's Sarek's ship. And then it turns out that it's Amanda Grayson, who is Burnham's foster mother and Spock's mother. She beams onto Discovery and tells Burnham Spock needs help.
The Klingon Empire's leader, Laurel, and former Starfleet officer Ash Tyler / Klingon Volk, ever the outsider. Tyler wants to be accepted as a Klingon, but together they're fighting all these complicated politics. Laurel wishes he could love her like Volk did, but it's still Ash's trauma prevents him from getting too close.
Ooh. And then back on Discovery, Amanda, she discovered that Spock was in a psychiatric unit, but she couldn't get any details about it. They wouldn't tell her nothing. So she totally stole all of his medical records and she took them back to the Discovery. And Pike was all weird about it, but then they gave him the cold shoulder and wouldn't give him details. So he was like decrypted and ordered them to do it. And Spock was accused of killing 3 people.
Yes, and then back on the High Chancellor's ship, Ash Tyler can't get paint off his fingers, so he keeps rubbing on his hands, and then he decides to holo communicate with Burnham and share some info and some intel about how like things might get tricky, and then somehow he is led to find the son of Laurel and Volk.
Back on Discovery, Burnham admits to emotionally hurting Spock when they were both young to protect him from the Vulcan logic extremists. Mama Grayson recognizes a drawing that from Spock's records as something from his childhood art, the Red Angel, which Burnham also recognizes from recent visions.
And on Kronos, the Klingon House leader, Cold Shaw, threatens to kill the Klingon Chancellor Laurel and Ash Tyler, the lover. Klingon Volk, Tyler, and for dun dun dun, having a secret child. Oh my God!
But they totally fake his death, and with the help of Philip and Georgiou, who just jumps in and kills everybody, and then Laurel convinces everybody that Tyler actually killed her baby, and that gives her more power. So now she's in charge of all the Klingons, and now he's in the Section 31. We missed. We didn't get it all. We're so close. No.
We got close. We got close.
We're so close. Do we want to finish up the last 2 just really quickly? Okay.
So I would complete this plot sharing by saying Georgiou brings what's his name? Ash Tyler to the Section 31 ship, and she's like, I don't know, there might be a place for you here. This badge is kind of cool. And he says,
And then we go back to Tilly. Burnham and Stamets use the dark matter extractor thing to remove the parasite from Tilly that caused her hallucination of May. So you don't need a sickbay, you need a Stamets. And that's it.
And that was amazing. That was popcorn recap. Good job, table. We did that.
So close.
Yes, but if you're a Trekhead or a Trekkie who wants even more detail and kind of an act-by-act breakdown, we love to refer folks to visit the Women at Warp page, actually, and check out the detailed recap there. Andy did the one on this episode, so you can find it there on Women at Warp. And for us, that was the Trek Table episode popcorn recap.
Marie has questions.
What does this mean?
Marie has questions.
What's happening? She did what? She's from where? She killed who?
Welcome to Marie Has Questions, where we model in this section that it is okay to ask questions, especially for a Star Trek light person like me with a topic as big as Star Trek. I have my friends Dela and Claudia here to answer as many questions as I can ask, or as they can answer in 2 minutes. So Dela has the timer.
Tell me when. Go. It's up.
Okay, the Klingon and the hair. So Klingons are growing the hair again. does that hold a special meaning that I don't know about? Do any of us know about?
Claudia, I'm going to defer to you.
Sure. Yes. All right. So basically, the Klingons have a very complicated history. It's been established in Discovery that they were going bald for like political and fashion reasons. And only because they won the war are they now rocking hair again. This was never an established thing in any previous Star Treks, but now it's canon, baby.
Now it's canon. Okay. So with Spock and this plot line of where's Spock, what's going on with Spock, this kind of changes like how we see Nimoy's Spock. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is this like a big contentious thing with like all of the Star Trek?
I mean, I would say that we all have our own relationships to Spock, and I appreciate how this deepens my understanding of Nimoy Spock. I just went back and rewatched the 2009 Star Trek movie from J.J. Abrams, and just watched the way that whole plot unfolded, especially at the end. And I just had this moment of like, this tracks for me. This feels, yeah, of course he has a sister we don't know about, and so yeah. So for me, I love this stuff, so. I didn't go. Third, here we are at time.
Okay, so then you don't have to tell me what, but do we exactly learn what Michael Burnham does to Spock to cause the rift between them?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
that's all I need to know. Okay, and then wasn't Stamets at the Vulcan Academy, or
no?
Is that something I missed? Okay.
Stamets was going to go. So like Stamets is all like, I'm going to go to the Vulcan Academy. I quit my job. They've given me permission. All we got to do is this one last run. You know, that's always the bad thing. You know, something's going to go down that keeps you on the ship the entire season. The second you say just this one last trip.
Right. Sounds pretty good.
I like the sounds. Okay, so thank you both so much. That was Marie Has Questions.
All right, welcome back to Discovery Design, where we are going to dish on all the design elements that gave us so much drama for this episode. So, y'all, we were on this Klingon planet a lot, and I was noticing that they're like all about building their buildings into cliff faces. They have a lot of fire elements. Can we talk about Klingon design? I just want to open it up to anything.
Yes. Can I bring up? Okay, so the paint, the paint and the paint is a listening device.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was really cool. I mean, I was also like feeling very Ash Tyler, Lady Macbeth, out damn Spot kind of moments.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, what? That's a microphone? That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Also, who knew that Klingons were all about this face paint? It's definitely a big thing for Discovery. I'm not sure if I recall them being all about the face paint for other iterations of their existence. Audience, you tell us.
Yes. I want to jump in about the fire and the flames. I feel like when I see this design, it feels. I mean, I'm very much like Laurel. House Mokai is part of the Takuvma movement, right? So Takuvma is all about the flames and the torch bearing and all that. So it makes sense to me that there's a lot of flameage. And I do love that we got to see the new Klingon warbird prototype in the hologram, even though I was like, oh, that's like the bird of so many episodes I've seen. So that's my Klingon tech.
Yeah. I was just noticing just so much of the planet, you know, there's like weeds or vines in that fight scene. They're like in a cave, they're also outdoors, there's weather. I mean, just so much is happening. And I is it like volcanic? Are they still close to the volcano where we saw at the end of season 1? There's so much cave-like elements that's.
Yeah, no, for real. Like you have Laurel literally like doing her like head of state business in a literal volcano. Like there's lava down there. I'm like, wow, like that is a setting to do your business in.
And can I just say, why is the baby in not a bassinet, but like a cauldron where we could cook it?
Yeah.
In what looks like a chapel.
Yeah,
It looks like a chapel.
A really harsh stone chapel, though.
Right.
Like they're all about the lots of stone, lots of natural elements, but they're harsh. They're made of lava. It's like I think it must be like lava glass or something. Also, at the end, Tyler's severed head. Ooh, that was nasty.
And the baby too. Like,
Okay, I should move us on. Section 31 had a lot of really cool stuff too. Like that ship, when it folded itself out, I was like, oh, that's a cool looking ship. If I was the kind of person who bought toys, I would want that one. Did you notice anything cool with Section 31 tech?
Well, the head replicators, I was like, that exists. And then just kind of like and I liked how Tyler commented on it, just kind of like, this is technology that doesn't seem like it exists, but it does.
Oh.
And that they said it was not just a replication, but it was a DNA match down to a right? So the fact that it wasn't just like make the fake head, but make sure it has the DNA tracing. But then no one cared because then she threw it away, right? So I just
like flew it into the lava. I don't know.
I'm glad they found a place for Giorgio and Tyler, and then just those extra, the angularness of the ship and the balcony, and everybody kind of working on the, it's almost like in a round, so you can see all these people in the background. It kind of reminds me of like a show, like even like 24, or where everybody's in the same office space.
But the open floor workspace plan.
Secret agent office space.
Giorgio had the sexiest tech, right? Like her tech was all wearable tech too, where it's just like, oh, like, all right, I'm just gonna like fling this awesome laser phaser disc thingy, and I've got a bubble making machine that'll let me just shank somebody. I was like, you wear it all so well. It's amazing.
I love it.
Did we notice anything else? Like, I'm a little obsessed with the Klingon elements and the Section 31 elements. Was there anything just like Star Trek-y that was also?
I just want to bring up in my rewatches, I noticed the other night, we had a conversation last episode about all the chairs in the ready room now and how Captain Pike's all about sitting. Well, the room where Burnham and Amanda are trying to figure out the Spock mysteries, no chairs. None. Who could do a whole shift without a chair? I don't understand. I mean, I know they're hardy, healthy, like Starfleet people, but sit down. Give Mama Amanda a chair. So that's what I noticed.
Sitting is death. They have done studies that say sitting too much, it's bad for your body and it will kill you. This is the future. They've got a walking plan and it's very healthy.
But Pike also loves to lean, not only sit. I appreciate that too. Leaning and looking at the screens.
Speaking of screens, did we notice that they hung a lantern on? They were like, oh, Pike, you're the one who likes to talk through screens. You're so old fashioned.
Yes. And then I feel like that's those moments are like, okay, is this supposed to help us link back to original series stuff that, it seems it's almost obvious to me because I only know so much about original series. And then also that one admiral or other captain throws in the bisabuela nena. And I was like, okay,
Admiral Bella.
A little Latinx crumb there.
I love it.
And it's not just a grandmother, it's a great grandmother.
Oh, come on. Well, y'all, just as always, I'm so full of deep gratitude because y'all help me to understand our design elements with more depth. But I believe that takes us to the end of this week's Discovery Design. We will be back next week to dish on more elements because they always have so much awesome design.
Yes. And we want to do a special shout out. We are building our conversations about design, and we just want to say we're a humble little podcast, and we're trying to build our Instagram followers. We're trying to get to 500. Could you like and follow us today at Trek Table? That would help us out. Join our conversations. Use all the hashtags. So yeah, we want to say thanks.
Oh, and this brings us to our next Star Trek question. Star Trek question number 2. This is for you in the audience. Answer in the chat. We want your opinion. But I'm going to be talking to y'all here in the Zoom with me. Giorgio forces Laurel to choose between the Chancellorship, her son, and her son's father. Do we think that choice was necessary? Welcome back, everyone. So we've had a lot of conversations about gender and power, and Laurel has to make a really big choice. And Giorgio is the one, Giorgio from the Mirror Universe is the one that forces her into it. What do we think about that? Was that choice necessary? I'm gonna start with you, Dela, again. What do you think?
In my humbles, I think yes. I mean, I believe yes by the way that the writer turned that speech at the end when she holds up the heads and she sells it. I was like, Giorgio was right. Like Mama Gigi knows. So I feel like, yeah, given all the way that the sexism was working, the anti-human Klingonness was going on, I do think yes, it was necessary to make a choice.
Maya, what's your take on all of this?
Yeah, also that's something I was curious about, the Klingon sexism and how that played out. I was like, where are the other female Klingons? She seems like that's a huge task to be a female leader. And but also I was thinking about on Trek in general, when and where we actually see children. And I'm the only ones that kind of come to mind. I mean, there's lots of kind of family relationships, but like young children like Cisco,
Jake.
Jake has a son, and there's a reason why he brings his son along. And then Wesley Crusher, right? But they're kind of a little bit older. They're not babies. So it does seem like it's hard to be a mama, in leadership. And yeah, I don't know if it's also just a plot point, but rough times, man.
Well, I'm seeing from the YouTube chat, in front of the other sexist patriarchal Klingon leaders, I think it was necessary. I'm seeing like exclamation points affirming that. Given the stakes of the culture she's in, felt it was necessary. It's kind of like Queen Elizabeth in England. She had to be the virgin queen and never married. Wow. All right. Our audience is having some really amazing observations. That's so useful. Marie, what is your take on this?
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this, like in terms of the question of can you have it all? And, I think also realistically, in terms of having it all, no, I don't think anyone should be able to have it all, to be honest. And, because that is, I think it's just kind of like having it all means that other people have less. And so in order to kind of equalize things, that everyone should be compromising in some kind of way. And so, I mean, that's one argument, right? And so so I'm pulling that here, that I think it is necessary. I think that priorities and choices have to be made, and for the sake of the Klingons, and that if Laurel wants to hold the peace, then that is the choice.
Gosh darn it. I brought up this question because I wanted y'all to convince me it was unnecessary. And actually, this is what set up most of the political badness and drama for all of the futures. Like, there would be less Klingon drama, I think, if this fundamental lie had not been set. That kind of, I go, oh, could there have been a way for a female leader to keep her baby and to make that work? But you know what? The ratio's against me. Everyone in YouTube and everyone here thinks it was necessary. I guess Laurel had to make the choice Laurel had to make. And that is the end of our Trek Table question number 2.
Yes. And if you're enjoying this Trek Space, then we invite you to like and subscribe to us on YouTube at the Trek Table. Find us there. We also broadcast every Sunday at 4:00 on the Outside In YouTube channel. So you can like and subscribe to us there, find our latest video highlights and special features and more.
And now is that time in our ritual where we invite everyone to move around in their seats and screens, not only because sitting is unhealthy for you, but because it's time for our Trek Table dance break with Space Runway.
Some of the eye-catching looks from function to fashion in the 23rd century. Space Runway.
Welcome. Welcome to Space Runway. This week we are doing highlights from season 2, episode 3. Yes, we're talking about space fashion. 4 looks today. Look number 4. Surprise, it's Amanda, the Vulcan ambassador's wife, and Spock and Burnham's mom beaming on board in a textured long-sleeve hooded sapphire blue robe that is the look when you need to keep it on the low, to whisper to Michael, "You're my only hope. Can you break the rules for our family's sake and decode Spock's medical files?" The form-fitting wrap across the chest and drape over one shoulder of this robe is gorgeous, and it's perfect to hide stolen files and reveal the next part of the mystery while looking sleek in all that fabric. Look number 3, Copper Chancellor.
When we first see High Chancellor Laurel addressing those grumpy old school Klingons, who of course take issue with female authority, we see her in a shoulder shrug with a regal collar that looks like it was fashioned out of piles of volcanic mud and packed on her back. The lumpy cape complements the revealing neckline of her copper couture form-fitting gown with a matching shiny metal belt and buckled wrist cuffs. The High Chancellor grew out her brown hair in waves and accents those Klingon ridges of her head with the V-shaped silver bejeweled forehead crown. This look says, "I define what Klingon female leadership looks like, and if you don't like it, then I will hunt you down and feed you your own entrails and make it look like fashion."
Look number 2, Torchbearer Baddie in black.
Ooh, human Klingon hybrid Ash Tyler / Vogue are dressed head to toe in black sleek leather, a one-armed cape, and more buckles and straps than your favorite leather bar. And is that a gold torchbearer? There's a new sheriff in town badge on his cape. Now that he's no longer a Federation officer, he's grown out his beard. He's living that long hair, don't care life, breaking his own heart and other people's necks in that look.
Look number 1, Gigi's back in black.
Is it an intruder? A Klingon Chancellor Guard? Is it Black Manta? Surprise! It's former Emperor Giorgio in disguise, looking like a superhero or supervillain or both, complete with a giant black hood, black leather gloves, ribbed breastplate, and a belt buckle with a splash of red. Mother is back with some advice about child rearing, lovers as liabilities, and protecting the Klingon peace accords. Beaming in at the 11th hour with the most fabulous cloak reveal of the century.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, nerds, for indulging me in space fashion talk. I love it. I live.
Yeah.
That is space fashion for this week, or space runway for this week. Fashion, form, and function in the future.
Awesome. I was getting ready to hear the rest of that song. I love so much. That song is Imaginaries by the band Quetzal. We'll drop the link to their link tree and all the ways you can support them. You can also follow them on Instagram at Quetzal Music. I just want to give love to them because it adds so much to our energy in our show. So we say thank you always. So I want to welcome you. Oh my gosh, for us, this is a faster show. We're used to being able to talk and ramble and be with each other in rituals. So this is awesome. We've gotten to the part of our show called Thematix, and we like to braid things together. And today's title is A Return of Mother. You've been hearing it all episode. We've been talking about the looks. We've been talking about the tech. We've been talking about the hair and things that we need to know. So we want to jump in and we want to think about our insights and reflections on this episode as we think about the return of mother. There's so many mothers in this episode. So I want to just open it up to the table, ask you to share your favorite mother of this episode. What's resonating for you? Was it Laurel? Was it Amanda Grayson? Was it Giorgio? So I'd love to open it up and see who Claudia, can I invite you to go first?
Well, you already kind of got the flavor of my opinion because I was desperately trying to find a way. I think it's because in my imagination, Laurel would actually be a really awesome mom. And I want to see the baby that has been raised by Laurel. But I also want to believe that you can be the leader of a whole dang planet and still be able to lead in that more personal way as well. I do think it's interesting that Georgiou is the one to force Laurel to make that choice.
Yeah, in hearing you say that back, I think I just took for granted the way that the sexism popped, and I was like, yeah, she has to give up. She can't have it all. So I just, in this revisit, thank you, helped me connect those dots. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And also how we judge moms. Amanda's like, oh, I'm such a bad mom. It's my fault about, Spock. I just was like, everybody's starting to blame themselves without really knowing what the information is. But I guess that's sort of the way when these family ties are complicated and you're trying to raise, multi-species children. But also I started to have thought all of a sudden about the Klingon child in the monastery and that being a whole thread or movie or something where he comes back, to recover his own history or that to avenge his mom or something like that too. And also because he is the kind of the albino Klingon, and again, that's another thing I don't know if that's ever happened. I don't know if I've never seen an albino Klingon until Discovery.
Well, one thing that I found really interesting was just finding this common thread of decisions by women to be distanced mothers for one reason or another. And so whether it's for the child's sake in Amanda Grayson's journey, or for Laurel to choose leadership over her child, and even Georgiou just being like, no. I mean, it's just like they are intentional decisions, but there are ramifications in terms of how they feel about it later. These are tough decisions to make, and I thought it was really interesting how they have that in common.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I know folks in the chat, Claudia, you got to read that during our check table question, but I also felt that Queen Elizabeth, the first vibe of, okay, so Laurel's not the virgin queen, but she is going to say, you are my children. She has to steward the planet over her own desire for child. And so I just feel that. I want to just say that I love that the look for Amanda this week in Runway was like Obi-Wan, you're my only hope kind of moment, because it did feel that with all the breathiness. And I will say, I still am having, we've talked about this before, I'm still having Jenny Schechter of the L Word vibes at moments. That character is just in my, but I will say, I love that Amanda sat down at that table in the ready room with the captain and was just like, this file needs to be opened, yo. Oh. And then she doesn't even say, she doesn't even look, Burnham just goes. And then he's trying to banter and Amanda's like, no. I taught her that. Don't trip. And this is a value on Vulcan. Forthrightness. I forget what she actually says. So I just want to give props to all the different ways we're seeing these women leaders, and even that moment at the end of the episode where Burnham is talking to Tilly, and Tilly finally has someone to sit down with her and just ask her what's up. And I did get a mom vibe when this is my last thought, when Saru was like, Ensign Sylvia Tilly, and I feel like he used all her names.
He did, yeah.
Mama Saru used all the names to tell her, so I offer those too.
No, that's matriarchal leadership right there, 100%.
All right, so I'm all caught up in this conversation. I'm so excited. All right, last topic for thematics right now. I just want to open us up to this idea of stamina. We were talking about Tilly. Folks mentioned earlier the apparition that is May. We get a sense from this episode that she is a ghost or a something. But I just wanted to check in about the mental health and the stamina of Tilly and what we're learning in this cadet training process she's in. Thoughts about Tilly? I'm going to go to Maya first. Do you have thoughts about where Tilly's at in this episode?
Yeah, I mean, just so much pressure to present as perfect so that she can achieve her goals And because of that, I mean, again, like Claudia was saying, it's not all her fault. There's a lot of, I think she has a really stressful mother, and and I adore Tilly, because to me she represents someone who isn't, her thoughts don't stay inside. She blurts stuff. I super just adore that, because I'm a blurter, I'm a nonlinear thinker, but I have so much to offer, just like Tilly. But because she isn't sharing with people, and there's good reason, right? Also, I was thinking about Ash Tyler. He was also worried about sharing his trauma, because he thinks he's going to be kicked off the ship, and this is their dreams. They've been building towards being a part of the Federation or being a part of this team, and so they're worried about being deactivated or not being able to do their job. And also even Stamets is having mental health stuff and trauma, but also I think that's the thing, like you're saying with the leadership aspect, is we have to be well in order to be able to perform, and we are human, and many of them are human, and so that's a part of it. And that's also what I love, though, is because she does tell what's happening with her. She realizes her body's being snatched, and it's something important that's I feel like it leads to another important aspect together. So the messiness leads to a discovery.
I love it. Marie Wren, I'm going to ask you to close us out on this topic. Thoughts about Tilly and Stamina?
Yeah, I was going to say something about like how Pike, so there was a comment about Pike having good sense of humor, but also that that this was because that the being able to address Tilly's issues came about because Burnham was in a space where she's like, I just need to solve something, and so I need a problem that I can solve, and then turn to Tilly. And not that Tilly is the problem that needs to be solved, but like, I want to help, I want to be helpful, and that's how we get through it.
And Burnham we could talk about whether or not that's Burnham responsibility hoarding, as kind of has come up at different points, right?
Yeah, or she needs a break from her stress too.
So, and I'm going to just say this. We know we could go on and on about these topics. We love thematics. I just want to say thanks so much to the table. Thanks to the friends in the chat. We're seeing some amazing comments come through. People are thinking about Klingon domestic workers. People are thinking about just different things. So I just want to say, like, we're here for it all. All right. So for us at Trek Table, thematics wouldn't be complete if we didn't jump into the spoiler zone. So we want to honor, if you're watching it in synchronous order, like Marie Wren and Maya are, we want to let you turn down your volume and mute us for 2 minutes. If you're visually watching us, you're going to be able to see a red screen go up when we start and a green spoiler zone image when we end. So you can come back, you can turn your volume back up in 2 minutes after the spoiler zone ends. Okay, Brandon, can you take us into the spoiler zone?
That was loud. Okay, real quick. Yes. I was about to lose. Did you see me just holding myself so tight and strong?
I saw. Go.
Oh my gosh, how did Maya was like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a future episode on Planet Voreth. You know we're going to be seeing Folks Baby again, and I am here for it. I'm actually really deeply excited about that episode, and I think it would have made an amazing spin-off movie. So yeah, that was cool.
Yes, and just to say from last week, we do want 3 spin-off movies from this series. Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%.
For sure.
Or
can I jump in?
Star Trek shorts. Go ahead.
For real. We love, and if you're not watching Short Treks and you've seen all these episodes, go watch Short Treks is what we want to support and recommend. Can I just say, I want to say this episode has all the mothers, because if we think about knowing all the spoiler things, that the Red Angel that visits Spock is actually Mama Gabrielle Burnham,
who had to give up her baby in a very similar way to like the move that Laurel has to do. So I'm like,
tell it.
Come on, writers of this entire show, tying it all together thematically. Damn it.
Yes. And I want to say that I'm also curious about the way that just how we get to see Mama Gabrielle and hear that story. And like that Marie asked us, like, do we get to see the actual fight or reason why Burnham hurt Spock's feelings? So I'm super excited for us to get there. And I think I'm just having, every time I see a red signal, I'm like, is that Mama G? Or is that
She's
Burnham?
coming. Also, I want to just reflect a little bit on May.
Yes.
May's protecting her family and her people. So like we're in this land of is May a ghost? No, May's not a ghost. May's a fungus. Is May an evil fungus? Our fellow watchers are, some of them are like, I don't know, but I don't know. I'm Team May. I am.
And I will say I'm Team May because I love that she pulls it out. She's like, where's that other captain? He's meaner and blonder and white, very, very white. And I just had this moment watching it like, thank you for delineating like the range of whiteness in this show. That's our time.
Amazing.
Right.
Transfer of data is complete.
All right, welcome back. That was the spoiler zone. We're so glad that folks, thank you, Maya and Marie, for letting us have that minute. Claudia and I got some business done. So we're super happy about that. We want to welcome back listeners who are listening auditorily on the podcast. Or if you're watching us, hopefully you're coming back and you see our cues. And that was so excited. That was Trek Table's spoiler zone for today. All right, welcome to the portion of our show that we call Signal Boost. We here at the Trek Table strive to hold space for Black, Indigenous, Brown, women of color, and we want to be able to amplify some resources and highlight the work of women of color content creators, community builders, and world shapers. Because this is a special episode, Marie, can I ask you to give our one Signal Boost for the day?
Yes, this week we amplify our fellow podcasters, the Sci-Fi Sisters, where science fiction meets Afrofuturism. The Sci-Fi Sisters discuss sci-fi movies, books, TV series, conventions, and podcasts from a Black female point of view. Check out their shows and more at syfysistas.com.
Yes, and we want to support that they are the opening show for tomorrow's Women at Warp IDIC podcast festival. They start at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, so check them out as well. If you have a woman of color content creator that you want us to amplify, let us know in our DMs at the Trek Table on Instagram or at Trek Table 1 on Twitter. And that is our signal boost for Trek Table episode 20. All right, thank you for joining us for this 20th episode of our Trek Table. We're coming to the end of our show, and as is the case at the end of every show, we check in with the host and ask you to share your final thoughts. So I'm going to invite Maya to go first. Final thoughts on Season 2, Episode 3, Point of Light for Star Trek Discovery.
So many threads being pulled, all kinds of mystery and, back and forth between locations. I love different locations and also the Klingon language, kind of putting us, forcing us to be kind of outsiders, this human-centric, storytelling that is also pushing our ideas around who gets to tell the story, who's the hero and who's the villain. So I love that part of this episode. I love, kind of the reach backs and learning, weaving all the threads and the challenge that yes, this idea of what it's like to create family, family that is, that, you're born into and the family ties you create in order to get through the day. And then Georgiou's back. Oh my God. I love her so much. She says all these, she has the best lines ever. So give me Georgiou every day, all day. And yeah, nice Georgiou was fine, but I need mean mommy once in a while. Yeah.
Woo, mean mommy.
Mean mommy. Thank you, Maya. I'm going to jump to Claudia next. Do you have a final thought for today's show?
Yes. So I'm thinking about the Marvel Universe adage, with great power comes great responsibility. And a lot of those stories are coming from such a patriarchal lens. And in this, we were getting the story that with great power comes great sacrifice, or to obtain great power, it requires great sacrifice, and how responsibility and sacrifice are combined. So I'm I'm leaving this episode thinking about that. And I'm also leaving this episode, as always, I can't help but think about colonialism and imperialism when I'm thinking about Star Trek. And I'm thinking specifically about the Klingon imperialism and how the Klingons are able to connect and find cohesion through identifying with each other by saying, oh, we're connecting through a shared identity of being Klingons. Which I find problematic on a like a substantial level. So I look forward to more storytelling to see how I feel about the entire political structure of the Klingons.
Awesome. Thank you, Claudia. I'm going to go next, and then we'll go back to Marie. My final thought is I just want to say thank you to the writer of this episode, Andrew Colville. We forgot to say your name earlier in recap, and there's so many quotables in this episode that I just fell in love with. And like, I just want to read my 3 favorites. Tilly says, "You are a symptom of an unfit mind," as she tries to deal with what May is doing. I love that Tyler says, "I'm not a human, Laurel. I'm a Klingon whose body has been changed to resemble one." And then my final is, "You think your discovery made moments ago," this is Laurel talking to Tyler about the baby, "you think that your discovery made moments ago is somehow greater than the pain I have lived with all this time?" So those are my final thoughts. Thank you so much. Marie Wren, your final thought for the day.
My final thoughts are around what has been revealed in this episode and in the decisions that we have made in the past and how we're reconciling with the repercussions of that, specifically with Mama Grayson and how she raised Spock. And like, I don't blame her for anything. She had to make choices, and so I just wish that she gave herself enough grace about that decision and having to make that decision. And Section 31, I want to know more. So that's it.
Yes. Well, we have come to the end of the show. We are so excited. We want to talk more with you. Follow us. We want to say thank you so much for joining us here at the Trek Table here on the Women at Warp. Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations Podcast Festival. I want to say thanks to our co-hosts, Claudia Alec, Maya Chinchilla, and Marie Wren Velez. I want to say thanks to all of those of you in the chat. Thank you for joining us. We want to give big thanks and shouts to Sue and the crew at Women at Warp. And we want to invite you to join us weekly at the Trek Table on Sundays at 4 p.m. Pacific time as we continue to dive deep into Star Trek Discovery Season 2, because we're building our way towards Season 4. And finally, let's close out this ritual. We held a lot of Trek space for women leaders and all the things. We've talked about colonialism and power and stamina, and just how can people be well in their high pressure jobs. Yeah. All those things that we're holding Trek space and more. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's close this ritual. Take a breath in. And take a breath out with all of the canes and the dogs in the shot. We love it. We hope that you have a great week. Hope you join us next week. We'll be holding Trek space for you till then. Thanks so much.